Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys a review of Songs of Unspeakable Terror by Bloody Hammers. So we've listened to this album non-stop for an entire week, and I'm going to take the floor and say that, you know what? After the criticisms of last week and my experiences of this week, it really hasn't changed that much. Now, there are some really strong points on this album, I will say. I think this band, overall, is really good at creating really catchy hooks and melodies that really keep you listening. But with this album, the biggest downfall is the repetition. Now, to honestly give you a perfect idea of what, the problem here, I want you to put on tracks 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 11. All, just the first few seconds of all of those tracks, and you'll notice that they start pretty much the exact same way. You get the exact same drum beat, the same kind of riffing style, similar sounding, harmonic direction with these riffs. It's just kind of the same thing. And at first when listening to the album, it's not that big of a deal because you're not ready for the repetition yet, right?
Yeah.
But you get to a point where it's like, okay, I feel like I've heard this song before multiple times. And in the second half of the album is when I really started to feel that. Not only in the first impression, but throughout the entire week, I had that issue. However, there are some songs on this album that I really feel like are super duper standout songs. And there's 3 main ones that did that for me, being Hands of the Ripper, Not of This Earth, and Lucifer's Light. All 3 of these songs don't have this generic drum beat going on right at the start with the same kind of guitar riff. All 3 of the songs are like that. That alone, I think, already kind of makes them stand out. But, Hands of the Ripper has got this cool shuffle groove going on, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I was honestly kind of surprised that Lucifer's Light grew on me as much as it did, because that's one of my favorite songs on the album, and I think it's because it's this sinister song that kind of starts to sound a little happy, but then once you start thinking the melody's gonna go in a bit more of a major direction, it goes down a half step and sounds all sinister again. And I really liked that it kept kind of catching me off guard with that, and that was really cool.
Yeah, well, you said some interesting things there. The thing about all those songs sounding the same, I definitely agree. They definitely all have the same vibe to them. And the rhythm section of these songs is definitely kind of a rehashed thing throughout the album. And I think that's a little bit funny because we said this band reminded us of the Misfits. Neither of us are really huge Misfits fans. And the reason I'm not a Misfit fan, I'll tell you, is because I tried to get into them years and years and years ago, and my problem with them was that every song sounded the same. So the fact that this also sounds like that and it's reminding us of the Misfits, I think is a little funny. As far as tracks that you liked through the week, I think this is very interesting because Hands of the Ripper was my top rated song on our first impressions. However, that song did the opposite of grow on me. I started getting annoyed with that song, and I don't exactly know why. But it got to the point where I was actually I don't really want to listen to this song. I think it's a good song. I think the shuffle aspect to it definitely sets it apart, and it pretty much makes it unique on the album. But for some reason, it just got old for me. I don't know why. Another interesting thing that, to contrast what you were saying, is Lucifer's Light is my least favorite song on the album. It did nothing for me. And to put it into a little bit of perspective, their prior album to this, The Summoning, had a song on it called Condemned the Prisoner, which was kind of the mellow song on that album. And that song I thought was awesome. That went into my playlist immediately. I love listening to it. It's such a well-written and well-performed song. Lucifer's Light to me didn't do anything for me. It just was a real kind of a letdown on the album, but there were some highlights for me. Witchfinder General is a sick song. In my playlist, no problem. My only gripe with it, it's way too short. Night of the Witch is also a really cool song. I found it funny that I liked both the Witch songs. That's a really cool song. And I also like the last song, I Spit on Your Corpse. Sorry. Because I like the fact that they brought the energy back up after Lucifer's Light before ending the album. So I find it weird that we have quite a contrast of opinions here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can agree that bringing the energy back up is a good idea there with I Spit on Your Corpse, but honestly, that song did nothing for me at all whatsoever. Like, that song came on and I'm like, this sounds exactly like, you know, half of the songs on this album. Now, I do like Night of the Witch, and I think Witchfinder General is also pretty good. Like, some of the songs on this album are good, like, even through all the ones that are, you know, repetitive or whatnot. There are still good ones among them. It's just, I find some of them, like We Are the Damned, or what else? I think the one right before it. Honestly, names. No, it was okay. There was maybe the one after it, because there were some songs I honestly got to a point that I could not tell which one was which. The Brain That Wouldn't Die, I didn't, like, it got to a point where I'm like, is that what this one? Oh no, it's not that one. But they sound so similar.
The
right?
Brain That Wouldn't Die sounds like a theme song from like a B-rated like horror movie. It's like just like a cheesy theme song for like a zombie movie or something. I thought it was kind of funny. It's a catchy song. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of burned out of the album by the time I got there every single time. However, one thing I really commend this album and this band for is going in a completely different direction than to what they did on The Summoning.
True.
Like, The Summoning is one thing. This album is a completely different thing. It's got the punk influence, like, total different, but it still sounds like this band.
That's
they have
the cool thing about it.
Similar riffing style. The melodic stuff is pretty similar, so it's really cool that this band was able to, you know, take their personality and apply it to something else for a different album. And I actually like that a lot. And I really like a lot of the punk influences in this album, a little bit more than The Summoning. But the issue is that this album got really repetitive to me, whereas The Summoning didn't.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing, it's like I kind of like the direction they took, but they got really repetitive with it on this album.
Yeah. So one of our viewers did leave a comment on our first impressions video saying that these songs on this album was basically just a for fun side project they were doing, and apparently the record label said no, you got to put it out as an album. So their hands were kind of tied. So I'm thinking maybe the percussion was kind of rushed, maybe, or it wasn't planned out properly, or they didn't have time to refine it, or something like that. So I don't know. It doesn't make it better, but I think there's a reason behind it. So it's kind of, I don't know, maybe a little forgivable. I don't know. But let's say we get to ratings.
Alright, so this album, I think it's a good album overall. Like I said, I had my issues with the consistency and how things were a little bit repetitive, but I do not only think there are some gems on this album, I do think it's still listenable overall. Like, you'll get a few listens out of it, maybe find some things to put in your playlist. Like, overall, good. I give it a 6.
Yeah, saying that there's a couple gems on this album I think is a good way to put it. Witchfinder General I think is just a super fun song, and Night of the Witch is also good too. Those are my two personal favorites. But yeah, the album does get a little stagnant. It's still a fun album. I didn't hate listening to it. I still had a good time listening to the whole thing. The only song that really started really bugging me was Lucifer's Light and Hands of the Ripper towards the end of the week. I was like, meh. But the rest of it, I think is actually pretty good, but it really isn't that great. So I'm gonna give it a 6 as well. I think it's a fair score. This band has produced better music, but it was also better circumstances for everybody at that time. So, but yeah, 6 is what it's gonna get from both of us. So yeah, that's that.
And there you have it, double 6 from us for Songs of Unspeakable Terror. And that's all we got for you guys today. Remember to like the video if you like it. Comment, tell us in the comments below, what would you rate this album? It's been out for a week. That's all we got. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And we'll see you guys later.